doesn't matter how innocent a person is, there's absolutely no comfort in being on trial for murder.
Everybody get down flat!
The need for love or intimacy is a powerful human emotion, and in some cases, that simple desire can become deadly.
I really loved Dion and was totally in love. I was madly in love.
What do they call you around these parts?
Mostly a cougar, a older woman involved with a younger man. Yeah.
She told the Nigerians that I must be dead by 9 o'clock, otherwise she's already lined someone up to kill them and me because they know too much.
Now, the case files that tell the true stories. Johannesburg, South Africa, and Ula Jacobs is seeing for the first time the place where his mother lost her life.
I suppose I'm saying goodbye to her because, none of us really had the chance of saying goodbye to her.
For Ula, coming here was always going to be difficult. You see, Ula's 67-year-old mother, Yetta Jacobs, died in this very apartment.
I think it would have been terrifying for her.
Australian police suspect it was murder at the hands of this man, Jesse Omoko. Finding him would mean a manhunt spanning 3 countries across 2 continents. And it would end in Nigeria and take us deep into the belly of a notorious scamming syndicate. It's such an incredibly cynical crime, isn't it? Preying on these incredibly lonely women for their money.
It is, and it's growing rapidly. It's the #1 form of fraud victimisation.
And really, there's no borders anymore, is there?
No, with the rise of the internet, this is something that is easily conducted from an offshore site, and perpetrators can be many thousands of miles from the potential victims. And there's some interesting research looking into the experiences of victims, and often their friends and family have said, this is a scam, back out, don't keep sending money. The desire to believe, the desire to have love or companionship is strong, but also this often develops slowly.
Let's go back a few years to where this sorry story began. Yetta Jacobs had lost her partner to cancer in 2009. She was lonely, living in the small town of Wagon, 200 kilometres southeast of Perth in Western Australia. Like so many before her, she turned to the internet on sleepless nights. And that's where she found Jesse Omoko, a young, good-looking student from Nigeria who told her all the things she was desperate to hear.
I miss you so much, baby. I can't wait to have you in my life forever.
So in 10 weeks, we will be husband and wife for real, I hope.
Yes, baby, for real. I just can't wait.
Did you query why a man 40 years her junior was even interested in a woman who was, well, for starters, 13,000 kilometres away?
We did, but I mean, Mum didn't want to hear about it. She just said, no, he cares for me, he loves me. You know, she believed that she's found the man who wanted to fill that gap she had in her life, and he was going to fulfill all her dreams.
Young Jesse Omoko was a pro, a master manipulator. In the thousands of messages Ula and his sister Lorna have recovered from their mother's computer, it's blatantly clear the control he had over her. On one night, she even wrote to him 12 times in an hour, desperate to hear from him.
Are you going to talk to me this time? Please, I'm missing you so bad.
Then he finally replies.
I hit my leg again, sorry. I have been crying in pain since. Baby, will you send me money so I can take care of myself, please?
How much?
It's about $400.
In another exchange, he pushes for Yetta to even sell her house and send him the money so he can buy them a home together in Africa.
Baby, I want you to sell the house soon so we don't miss each other too much.
The house will take a long time to sell.
Baby, the bank's over there. Can they buy it? Baby, I'm just worried because I want to be with you so badly.
I never wanted anything so much, so I can leave my life behind. I love you, Jesse, my sweet husband.
I love you, my sweet wife.
By this time, Yetta's whole world was the fantasy built around this long-distance relationship. And in November 2012, 3 years after meeting Omoko online, she finally decided to leave Australia and be with him.
I think in every human there's a bit of a vulnerable soft spot, and when you've fallen in love, you just cannot see past it. She wanted so badly for it to be true that I think she was sort of turning a bit of a blind eye to the things that weren't right.
Does the fact that this fraud can be done at such a vast distance in different hemispheres make it easy for the criminals?
It does make it easy in the sense that there's an anonymity associated with distance, and often this is a big fishing exercise, so lots of people are drawn into the net. So some of these scams net millions of dollars across the globe, lots of victims.
Yetta Jacobs thought she was starting a new relationship in a new country with a man who loved her. Despite repeated warnings from her family, she refused to believe she was being scammed and that the man she'd given her heart to was fleecing other lonely women all over the world.
She arrived almost in the spirit of a young bride. I mean, she was besotted with him.
Suzette Clerty helped Yetta find an apartment in Johannesburg. She says Yetta was excited about Omoko's imminent arrival and their upcoming wedding. But as the weeks turned into months, there was still no sign of Omoko.
He kept postponing his arrival, saying that there were problems with the visa and he had family problems, and I think she kept on sending money. And at that stage, I became very worried, and I took her in my arms. She was crying when I arrived at the unit. She was so emotional.
Desperate to keep Omoko happy and speed up his arrival, Yetta called the only friend she had back in Western Australia, Marie Byfield.
By this stage, it was pretty dire, and she did call me and ask me to take some of her paintings in to be sold. And she asked some people to sell her car for her, so she was desperate for cash, yes.
Yetta had given him everything she had, at least $90,000. By the time Omoko finally arrived in Johannesburg, Yetta had just $5 left in her bank account. 4 days later, she was dead.
She had no one around her, not even family or friends, to support her. To me, I suppose that's the hard part, is knowing that none of us were there for her.
Yetta died from an overdose of sleeping pills, so police initially ruled it as suicide. But suspiciously, her laptop, her jewellery, cash and credit cards were all missing.
There's definitely been some foul play. The extent of Jesse Omoko in that, I don't know.
Don Blackshaw is head of the West Australian Fraud Squad. His unit had become aware of the huge amounts of money Yetta was sending to Nigeria and tried to warn her, but by that time she'd already left for Johannesburg.
Do you think there's any chance that he did truly love her?
I don't believe so. I believe it was just his only intention was to take everything she had.
What do you think of Omoko?
Well, I haven't met the man, but certainly on what we've been told about him, he's obviously quite a despicable human being.
Is he a potential murder suspect?
Well, he's certainly a person of interest in the investigation. He had the motivation, he had the opportunity, so he's certainly very heavily in the frame.
By this time, it was too late to question Omoko. The day after Yetta's death, he didn't hang around. He fled back to Nigeria and once again disappeared off the radar.
In this case, in a country of 170 million people, tracking down a scammer and a possible murderer like Omoko was going to be near impossible. But Nigeria's fraud squad made it a top priority after getting a special phone call from the West Australian police.
They said that they're looking for a Nigerian called Jesse Omoko, who has been perpetrating a romance scam on an Australian citizen, Yetta Jacobs. And they believe that he must have scammed her in excess of $90,000. And they suspect that he has a hand in her death. We've never seen a situation where they will see the person scammed and at the end he killed her. So it was quite of a kind of an old story and that we have to look into.
He has been using the...
Abdul Chikole is the lead investigator with the fraud unit in Lagos. He says Omoko matches the typical scammer's profile. University educated with good English and computer skills, they work together in highly organised criminal syndicates. This is a rare opportunity to see how these gangs operate. The target in this early morning raid is a suspected scam syndicate operating on the outskirts of Lagos.
PMF, your people have to cover the entrances. That's all. Okay. We can take off.
Let's go.
Everybody, step out, step out.
Come here.
Step out.
Everybody get down. Flat.
After partying late into Saturday night, it's clear that this was the last thing any of these fraudsters were expecting.
This one is drunk. She's drunk. Lie down.
Come out now. Why are you wasting time? Come here.
Police seize computers and phones. For scammers like these guys, all tools of the trade. Searching the compound, they find expensive clothes, watches, even cars.
You're a student, right? And you use a Porsche. How did you afford that?
As the rest of the neighbourhood awakes, the scammers are taken away. But there's no loyalty amongst thieves. They give up the location of the gang's ringleaders. So now it's a race to reach their boss's home before anyone can tip them off.
Stand up. Stand up, stand up. Stand up.
Raids like these are commonplace in this part of the world. It's an uphill struggle to stay ahead of the scammers.
Have you ever thought about the victims of scams? The poor people who send their money to men like you?
I don't know.
You don't give them much thought?
I don't collect money from people.
We've recovered millions and millions of dollars, which were returned to the victims. So many of these fraudsters were prosecuted and convicted.
It took a while, but after a 12-month manhunt, Jesse Omoko was finally arrested. The man who had fleeced Yetta Jacobs of $90,000 and is suspected of murdering her was finally in custody.
Can you tell me the countries that you visited?
To Republic of South Africa.
How many times have you visited South Africa?
Twice.
What took you to South Africa?
I was there to meet my girlfriend, Yetta Jacobs.
we want to believe that someone's accountable for what happened that day. Because I believe he did it, I really do.
Ula and Lorna know they have a fight ahead of them if they're ever to see justice for their mother, whose only mistake was to give her heart to a callous con man.
I've lost a mum who, there's no replacement. Someone who brought us up, cared for us, showed us the values she believed in.
What else can you say?
While Amoko is now in custody for defrauding Yetta, it's up to South African authorities to pursue the murder charge. But unfortunately, shoddy police work back in Johannesburg and a 4-year backlog for toxicology results mean Amoko is unlikely to be charged with murder anytime soon, if ever.
My fear is that as time goes on, it will lose significance. So I would like to see that the toxicology is done a lot quicker, and all we can do is keep pressing for that, because the longer it does go on, I think, yes, it will drop off the radar.
Yetta's story is a tragedy. An innocent woman just looking for affection and companionship ends up dead, thousands of kilometres from home and possibly murdered by the man she loved. It's human nature to seek love and companionship, but even a one-night stand can be deadly.
Hello, Dad. I might have a bit of a situation.
In the heart of Queensland's glitzy surfers' paradise, a Tinder date has just gone tragically wrong.
Like, I was all right at first, and we, had sex in bed, and then after that, she kept drinking.
In the early hours of August 8, 2014, Gable Tosti tells his father what's just happened.
I think she thought it was like a joke or something, but she kept beating me up and whatever.
I will fucking destroy your jaw. It's not fucking funny.
I forced her out on the balcony. And I think she might have jumped off.
26-year-old New Zealander Warina Wright has just fallen 14 floors to her death.
I've been walking around and there are a million cops around my building. I'm fucked. I don't know what to do.
Gable Tosti was right to be worried. Police would soon charge him with murder. He maintained his silence throughout the investigation, refused to be interviewed by police or take the stand during his sensational trial.
Mr. Tosti, is there anything you would like to say today?
Going to court for the first time, thrust into that national spotlight, what's it like for somebody like Gable Tosti?
I imagine it's a very intense experience. The amount of attention, the intensity of the court experience, and there's an element to which this is theatrical and performative, but there's also an element where the future of his life kind of hangs in the balance. So there's real personal tensions, and then there's the performative media angle that was less than thrilling.
Any comments about all this media, all this attention? This is the final time you'll walk the street. You won't see us for a long time. You must have some sort of relief about that. Nothing at all.
Any comment at all that you'd like to make?
When that jury came back and said not guilty, that must have been a huge relief for you.
Absolutely. It was, they took their time, but, at the end of the day, they made the right decision. It doesn't matter how innocent a person is, there's absolutely no comfort in being on trial for murder.
Gable Tosti was 28, addicted to fast cars, women and bodybuilding, and Surfers Paradise was his sexual paradise as well.
When you met Warina Wright, you were a bit of a playboy, weren't you?
I wouldn't say playboy. I mean, I like meeting girls.
I noticed at one stage you boasted of sleeping with 180 different girls.
Wasn't intended to be a boast or anything. And those sorts of figures, you know, in this day and age, I'm not sure they're really that uncommon among a lot of guys.
Gable and Warina first met in a nearby mall. After a tentative peck on the cheek, they went to a pub around the corner. They didn't hang around, eventually deciding just to buy a six-pack of beer and go straight up to Gable's apartment on the 14th floor.
Warina was, you know, she came across as nice and quite, you know, almost timid at first, and we got along.
What were you drinking?
We initially bought a six-pack from the bottle shop. We finished them and then we started drinking vodka.
What sort of vodka?
It was actually homemade vodka.
Moonshine?
You can call it moonshine, yeah.
A night of drinking and sex followed, but it was shortly after midnight that things started to turn. Now, one thing that makes this case so extraordinary is what Gable did next. He decided to record everything on his phone.
Obviously, I used to go out quite a lot drinking. I don't have the best memory when I drink. And in this day and age, hitting record is, recording your night out is as easy as pressing a button and leaving your phone in your pocket, because you're better off having something and not needing it than needing something and not having it. The thing that happened on the 8th of August 2014 is a perfect example. Come here.
Have a good night. I'll close.
Don't close the door, no. Do you want me to walk you back home or?
No, it's okay.
No, come on, no, don't be like that.
Just have a good night.
So everything's going okay at this stage. You've offered to walk her back home.
Yeah, if she was going to go home, if that was what she wanted to do, I would have been also happy to walk her back home.
Right, so everything's going okay?
Yeah, I mean, at that stage, I noticed she was behaving a little bit quirky, and that's all I thought it was at first. And that's your bag there, isn't it?
Yeah, but where's all her shit? Where's my fucking shit?
Like what?
At 1:35 a.m, things started getting heated. Warina, clearly drunk, accuses Gable of stealing her phone.
No.
Fucking... I will fucking destroy your jaw. It's not fucking funny.
I'm not sure why she got so angry like that, but we were looking for her phone apparently, and she couldn't find it, and she seemed to be blaming me for that, and I was offering to, you know, call her phone to help her find it. And
Did you know where it was?
No, I didn't know where it was.
Okay, but at the time, you know, as we just heard, she says, "Do you want me to destroy your jaw?"
Yeah.
So, had she already hit you?
At that stage, it was kind of what I understood to be play fighting, but as you'll see throughout the night, it got worse and worse. What do I have to do? Oh! I think that was actually a rock being thrown at me.
You caught one there, did you?
Yeah, close range too.
It was after 2 a.m. that Warina started pelting Gable with small decorative rocks that he had in his apartment.
But I don't understand.
Ow! What?
But I don't understand, Dad.
All right, I'll bow down. Even at that point, I was trying to cooperate with whatever she had in her mind. I didn't know what else to do. I was just, I wanted it to stop.
Digga!
All right, that's enough.
No, that's
Sounds like you've tackled her there.
I think we're just wrestling at the time.
That's enough. That is more than enough. You want it, you're welcome.
At that point,
You've decided that's enough.
I've told her, you know, you've worn out your welcome, and there's a point where I kind of paused for a minute and thought, what do I do? You know, how do I sort this out? She can't be in my apartment any longer.
This is fucking bullshit.
It's at this point the 6'3" Gable becomes menacing, threatening Warina with a choice of words the prosecution would later use to try and convict him.
You're lucky I haven't chucked you off my fucking balcony, you goddamn psycho little bitch.
Just a horribly, horribly unfortunate choice of words without having any idea what, you know, would happen next. I didn't intend that as a threat. I intended it as a figure of speech to say, you're lucky I've been so tolerant with you. I know how it looks. It's absolutely, it is the worst, you know, to even mention the balcony. It's the worst choice of words one could have used.
These are the forensic photos of Gable's flat. Rocks littered the carpet, a telescope lays on its side on the table. Metres away is the telescope clamp that Warina grabbed and allegedly tried to use as a weapon.
This is where it all goes horribly wrong.
This is where I've basically bundled her up and started to carry her out the nearest door.
Who the fuck do you think you are?
No!
Hmm?
No! No! No!
You're trying to kill me, huh?
No!
Why are you trying to hit me with that?
No!
Huh?
We heard Warina scream no 33 times. And she was begging to go home. Why didn't you just use the front door?
That's only a question that you can ask in hindsight when you have to desperately get someone away from you and separate the two of you and try and de-escalate an altercation. It doesn't come into the equation that that person is going to climb off a balcony and fall 14 floors to their death.
How far is it between the front door and the balcony door?
It was a lot closer to the balcony door, and it was wide open, and it was the logical option at the time.
But you've been...
Just 27 seconds after Warina is locked out on the balcony, she falls to her death. The haunting final scream recorded on Gable's phone.
Must have been incredibly harrowing for her family to hear this all unfold blow by blow.
Yeah, indeed, it's shocking listening. It must be harrowing to sit through that recording, and equally for people in the courtroom, court complex that are exposed to it and have to think about they're witnessing the last moments of someone's life.
What a terrible shot.
For 2 years, Gable was out on bail, charged with the murder of Warina Wright. The simple pleasures of a father and son game of golf seemed a world away.
Yeah, that's good.
When your son was charged with murder, did that sound in any way believable?
Totally unbelievable and surreal. Didn't make any sense.
I was there when the police arrested Gable and put him in handcuffs and took him away, and I was totally concerned about that. It was hard to process. I didn't know why it was happening. to be called an accused murderer, my son, knowing the type of person that he is, caring and considerate and thoughtful of others, never harmed anyone else.
But it's her son's actions that night that would call both his innocence and character into serious question. When Warina fell from the 14th floor balcony, it was what Gable did next that raised suspicion. He didn't call for an ambulance. He didn't even call the police. He rang his lawyer.
Shit. Hi, the person you have called is not available.
But not surprisingly, there was no answer. So he decided to simply leave the building.
Where the fuck are my keys? I was absolutely terrified at what had just happened to her, but instinctively, I knew that if I ran out there and somebody saw me looking over the edge and she had actually fallen all the way, it would look like, it would not look good. It would look like I had forced her over or something. And I thought, I need to do whatever is the most rational thing to do at the moment. I need advice. I need advice from somebody impartial.
Six minutes after Warina fell, Gable catches a lift down to the ground floor. But when he sees the emergency services outside, he decides to backtrack and exit the building through the basement car park.
Increasingly, we are seeing these cases unfold through modern technology. We know what happened for much of that night.
Indeed. And the CCTV footage builds a picture, shows agitation or shows movement at particular moments through the course of this event. And then we have the unusual situation where it's all recorded on a phone. I think increasingly lives are lived in social media. They're lived in a public way.
Nobody's trained for a situation like this. It's like being hit by lightning. There is no right or wrong way to proceed from there.
Well, if I can humbly suggest there might be one right way. How about calling an ambulance?
Well, as I said, what had happened, and there's nothing an ambulance could do to change that.
It's this attitude and what Tosti did next that really condemned him in the court of public opinion. For almost an hour after Warina fell to her death, he wanders around Surfers Paradise, even stopping to buy a slice of pizza.
By the time I ate, I had been wandering around the streets, confused, extremely drunk and in shock, and I needed to clear my head and sober up. And so I found a place that had some food. There's nothing happy or casual or indulgent about it. That night, that was the most scared I've ever been. It's the most distraught I've ever been in my entire life.
A week after the incident, Queensland Police finally charged Gable Tosti with murder. They didn't allege Tosti threw her off the balcony, but that Warina was so afraid she fell to her death while trying desperately to escape.
And do you think she was so frightened that that's why she attempted to climb down?
There was no threat to her. She was out there on her own. I was inside on my own. That's one of the most perplexing things to me. I can't understand what would drive a person to climb off a 14th floor balcony into nothingness. I didn't know what was running through her mind, and I didn't do anything to make her fear for her life. I didn't harm her physically at any point. That was proven in court by the pathologist. There were no signs of choking. There were no signs of any physical harm on her.
Come on, get up. Get up. Fuck up. Get up. Okay, get up.
How did you have a restraint?
I can't remember exactly. I just used my size and I can't remember. It wasn't choreographed or anything. There are probably a lot of people who might not believe that, but the fact is that I don't remember those exact details.
I will fucking destroy your jaw. It's not fucking funny.
Once you actually heard the tape in its entirety, we were confident that we would be able to satisfy the requirements, yes.
Fair to say everything hinged on the recording?
Oh, definitely, yes. Yeah, well, without it, it would be a completely different trial.
But I don't understand.
Ow! What?
But I don't understand, Dad.
All right, I'll power down. Who's Sam?
So it really was a double-edged sword. But having said that, I think it worked more in Mr. Tosti's favour than it did in the prosecution's favour, in the sense there was an accurate reflection as to what occurred that night. If you had actually heard someone give that description, or if Mr. Tosti had given evidence without that tape and explained what had occurred in that apartment for the hour and 46 minutes before, it would have been unbelievable.
The day of the verdict was big news across the country.
We do have two forms of communication to be able to bring you the information as soon as we know it. There's a media room that has been set up, so we're getting a link in one ear to the media room, so we should be able to hear what's happening. And then I'm also getting text messages. They're reading out the charge now. The verdict is seconds away.
Bear with us while we listen to this and decipher what we're getting in our ear, and we'll tell you as soon as we can.
I'm hearing not guilty. I'm hearing not guilty to both charges. I'm just waiting for confirmation from No, can you say it again? Gable Tosti has been found not guilty of murder and not guilty of manslaughter. That is the word from inside the courtroom.
Mr. Tosti is very happy with the result. He's relieved this matter is now behind him, and he's looking forward to moving on with his life. He thanks all those people that have supported him through this and realises just how tragic this has been for many people. At this stage, just looking forward to putting it behind him and considering his future from here. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Tosti, is there anything you would like to say today?
How frustrating has it been, Mr. Tosti?
We're always confident we would get on.
Is there anything you'd like to say to Arena Wright's family, Gabe? Is there anything at all you would like to say, Mr. Tosti? Apology? Could you describe the line?
As you may appreciate, Warina Wright's family are still coming to terms with the loss of their daughter and their sister, as well as enduring the anguish of being present here for this trial this last 2 weeks.
Yes, of course, Mr. Tosti. This sort of reaction from people, does that affect you at all, sir?
And so when the verdict came out, that must have been an incredible relief.
Yeah, it was
inexplicable. It was just a relief in a way.
It's difficult because it's relief to know that your son's not virtually going to die in front of your eyes, I suppose. It still didn't help Miss Wright's family. I mean, it's they still are dealing with their loss. It just reduced the tragedy from one person to not being two people.
In the end, this was a very 21st century tragedy. A young couple hooked up by Tinder and their night tracked by CCTV footage captured by selfies and recorded on a smartphone. But the pain of a shocking and sudden death is as old as humanity itself.
I hate the fact that the last thing Warina experienced was an argument, an altercation. You don't expect these things, and you're not trained to deal with them in a certain way, especially not when you're on a Tinder date, a first date with someone.
Love and lust are both powerful emotions. So powerful they can blur the line between right and wrong and friends and family.
Do you think Dean enjoyed the weekend?
Yes. Manda and Yarlene Renke are not only mother and daughter, they're best friends.
But did other people saw lions?
Everybody said they saw the lions except our group.
Oh, okay.
And every time I asked
Blood is thicker than water, and it has to be when you hear their story. A story of young love.
I really, really, really loved Dion and was totally in love. I was madly, madly in love.
Betrayal.
What do they call you around these parts?
Mostly a cougar, an older woman involved with a younger man. Yeah.
And murder.
She told the Nigerians that I must be dead by 9 o'clock, otherwise she's already lined someone up to kill them and me because they know too much.
Dion Helberg was a teenage rugby sensation, earmarked as a future international with the South African Springboks. At just 16, stunning Yarlene Renke was already showing the poise that would make her an acclaimed international model. And 5 years ago, they met here at Middelburg College, where they became high school sweethearts and young lovers.
There were no doubts in my mind. This was the guy that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with.
Were your feelings as deep?
Yes, definitely. Definitely it was. I think it was my first big love as well.
Even at this young age, Dion was invited to move in with Yarlene and her family.
You had no concerns that two hot-blooded teenagers were under the same roof?
His room was quite far away from hers. And, we never allowed them to share a bedroom. Every parent believes that their children are trustworthy.
Every child believes their parent is trustworthy.
That's true too, yeah, definitely.
For 23 years, Manda and Dr. David Renke were happily married, raising their two daughters here in the conservative Afrikaner community of Middelburg. Dion was the son they never had, but quickly the chemistry changed with Manda. So here's where it gets complicated. First, there was flirtatious texting. Then came the sex. So not only was Dion sleeping with Yarlene, he was also in a sexual relationship with her mum, 26 years his senior.
She says that you sent her a text saying it was your fantasy to be with an older woman.
She asked me if I ever had that fantasy, and I said, I think...
Well, it is a schoolboy fantasy, isn't it?
Yeah, but...
Is that when the sex began?
Yeah, pretty much.
That opened
the door for... I mean...
But he was 17. He was your daughter's boyfriend.
I know. If I can make sense of that, I might make sense of my life now. We did visit here, we did have dinner here, and then we got together for the first time in a sexual way, yeah.
In August 2007, only 4 days after the first text, they were in bed together here, now bear with me, at the Wishes and Dreams Lodge, just outside Pretoria.
It was sex between two consensual people.
Was it romantic?
Yes, it was.
At that point, did you think, this is wrong, this is so wrong?
I do not have bad memories of that evening, not at all.
The first time it happened, I was just over it, and I just said, listen, I really feel bad and I don't want to do it anymore. That's done for me. Then she just started and saying, no, she don't think it's over, and if I don't keep doing it, she will tell Jolene and she will tell everyone else.
Dion was never raped. Dion came to me willingly. He had his own transport. He made arrangements with me. We never drank or smoked pot or did anything to soften the blow of having sex with the older woman. I might have been Dion's meal ticket, but I was never his prison.
Did you say to Dion, if you stop this sexual relationship with me, I will tell my daughter and you will lose her?
Yes, once.
I think I was just really too scared to say no. I was just too scared to say no.
But for you to be involved in a sexual act, you know, it takes two to tango. So was there a part of you that did enjoy what was going on?
Obviously, yeah.
It's hard looking at the pictures because this was, now I know this was 2 days after he and my mother slept together for the first time. So it makes this beautiful memory sad. It makes it sad.
Photographs and memories are all that's left, collected in what Jolene calls her Dion box. The first she knew of the betrayal was when she discovered a letter from Dion trying to end the affair with Manda, along with her mother's diary, which spelt it all out in juicy, lurid detail.
She wrote that where they did it, how they did it, when it happened, why it happened, and I felt sickened. And that's when I found out about the relationship.
In that moment, who did you feel most betrayed by? Dion or your mum?
My mum. She slept with my first love and she slept with my boyfriend. I felt betrayed. I didn't even think about Dion because it's your mum.
We both crossed that line. That was a line that should never have been crossed, never.
But do you accept that you are the bigger betrayer in this? You crossed that line.
Yeah.
It is your daughter.
Yeah.
It is your home. He is under your care. You are the adult.
And for that, I took all the responsibility. I cannot explain the part where I became involved. I never said to myself, remember, he's her boyfriend. He's her boyfriend. Never, never. Yeah.
What was wrong with you?
I think it was love. It totally blinded me.
Did you love him more than you loved your own daughter?
Yes, at that stage, yes.
With it all out in the open, Dion's affair with both mother and daughter was over. His rugby career went from strength to strength, earning international selection. Meanwhile, Manda's life was falling apart. She lost her husband, she lost her home, she lost her daughter. She became the ultimate woman scorned. One thing she did have, though, was her ongoing obsession with Dion.
She told me at one stage that if she couldn't have me, then no one can. It's simple as that.
Events quickly escalated from seedy to sinister. Manda became vengeful, and in an extraordinary attempt to get back at Dion, she hired 2 Nigerian hitmen who were more than happy to take her cash, but lucky for Dion, also happy to betray her.
I got a phone call at night, it was late at night, about 9:30. He just said, listen here, just listen to me because I was hired to kill you. So yeah, and I just said, sure, that's the way.
So when he told you this, that he'd been hired to kill you, what was going through your mind?
Well, I didn't sleep that night, if that's what you're asking, because now I was scared, really I was. But as soon as he told me, I knew it was her.
Now, Manda freely admits she hired the hitmen, but she claims only to maim Dion, not to kill him.
No head injury, no facial trauma. I want you to hurt his knee. I don't want him to play rugby anymore. I want to rob him of a future that was robbed from me. I never, ever wanted him dead, because a dead person cannot get up every morning and feel the hurt that we were feeling.
But police always believed Manda wanted Dion murdered. So they set up this extraordinary scene. Dion covered in real blood, pretending to be dead. The hitmen, who were by now working with police, sent her this photo to prove they fulfilled their contract. Dion was dead, but it was all a con.
I mean, you say you didn't want this boy dead, but here you get a photo, told that he's dead, we've done the job.
Yeah, I sent them back. Please, where's the knee injury? Please explain.
She might claim to be disappointed with the hitman's handiwork, but Manda still turned up the very next morning to pay the hitman their $4,000. And that's when the police pounced.
And what was that moment like for you?
Utter relief. I was so relieved that it was finally over.
When my mum was arrested, the photos that were taken was this woman with no expression on her face. She seemed dead inside.
Do you think any of that, whether it was to hurt him or kill him, is normal, acceptable behaviour?
No. No, I don't. I was betrayed by two people and I just sat back, where she was betrayed by one.
The revelations of this extraordinary love triangle scandalised a nation. But after Manda made a plea bargain late last year, she only received a 5-year suspended sentence and was ordered to get psychiatric treatment.
When it comes to motivation, lust and obsession are two emotions quite often found when it comes to crime.
Indeed, strong human emotions, almost from an evolutionary psychological perspective, the sort of core motivations. So yes, in this case, lust, desire really runs through this case, doesn't it?
Now, here's one of the most amazing parts of the case. Astonishingly, Yarlene found it within herself to forgive and once again trust her cheating mother, but not her now ex-boyfriend, Dion.
Is it easier to forgive your mother by putting so much of the blame and the hatred on Dion?
No, because I put the most blame and hatred on my mum. So it wasn't easy at all.
Do you think you deserve your daughter's forgiveness?
No. The fact that she forgave me is testament of who and what she really is.
Why does it make you cry?
Because I almost lost her.
She did. I'm very stubborn.
Of course, you know your anger was completely justified.
Yes, of course. But I can't stay angry forever.
Can you understand her hurt?
Definitely, I can. I can understand hurt. For Yarlene, I actually feel guilty for doing that to Yarlene. Parts of my life just went downwards from there.
But do you actually feel safe now?
I think so.
Is Dion safe now?
Yes.
So this need to hurt him has
stopped. It's gone.
The football star, the model, and her mother. A love triangle that could only end in tears and very nearly ended in tragedy.
Do you think your obsession was driven by love or by hate?
I think I still love him.